everyone, and welcome to the Uncorked Corner podcast, where we cover the full spread of food and beverage industry topics. My name is Bianca, PR and marketing professional by day and food and wine connoisseur by night.
And my name is Nick, an accountant with a passion for barbecue, beer, and whiskey. Today we welcome Ian Michaud. Ian is the distillery manager and head distiller at Liquid Riot Bottling Company in Portland, Maine.
In today's episode, Ian takes us through the history behind the Liquid Riot name, what it's like to work with family, and their focus on the full distillery, brewery, and bar experience. Plus, some insight to one of my new favorite spirits.
With that said, let's get into the podcast. Hi, everyone. Today we're welcoming Ian Michaud to the podcast. Ian, let's start by having you introduce yourself and give us some info about your role at the distillery and your background in distilling.
Hi, my name is Ian Michaud. My brother and I founded Liquid Riot. My brother's the president of the company, and I helped him do all the build out and I run the distillery now. So I'm the distillery manager as well as the head distiller there.
Awesome. Let's talk about Liquid Riot as a distillery. So as I understand it, Liquid Riot's name has an interesting historical significance. Can you tell us the story of how you settled on the name and what it means to you?
So a lot of people who know us from early on know that we first opened as Infinity. And we had some issues with the name, other people using it, and decided instead of trying to get into a legal battle, we rebranded. So after about 2 years, we changed to Liquid Riot. The idea there was historically, there's been a number of riots and uprisings revolving around prohibition and alcohol and people's rights to choose to drink their own beverages. In Portland, Maine, a lot of people don't realize we were the first area in the country to have prohibition laws enacted. Neil Dow was the mayor of Portland, or governor, I don't remember. But he started the prohibition laws early on, and when that went into effect, it caused a rum riot, the Portland rum riots, in 1855. All of the liquor that was being kept in town for medicinal use, because that was the only thing that you could use liquor for back then, was locked up in the customs house, and everybody thought that Neil Dow was hoarding it for himself. And so when the dock workers and immigrants and everybody got wind of that, they decided to go try to steal back the alcohol. And then so there was a riot, shots were fired, and one person actually died. But that was the Portland rum riots. Also, shortly after that, in Chicago, there was a beer riot where they were dumping beer out in the streets, and there was a bunch of uprisings around that. And then there has been through history, there's been other riots and uprisings. There was the Champagne riot in France at one point. So we chose this name, Liquid Riot, to sort of honor and remember all of this history revolving around alcoholic beverages.
Great. And now, when coming up with the idea to start the distillery, what was the real driving force behind you guys getting together and saying, hey, let's do this. Let's start making our own booze. Let's get it out there to the people.
So my brother Eric has always been into fermented beverages. In high school, he was homebrewing at home, and made some pretty decent stuff back then, even though he didn't really know a whole lot about everything. And it was prior to this big craft beer beverage boom. But that love sort of continued, and it actually, his interest continued into college, and he was able to go to a school that allowed him to travel and sort of build his own itinerary. So he spent his college years traveling Europe, learning about beer, wine, spirits. He worked in Japan at a sake brewery for a semester. He spent time in Belgium, a lot of time in Belgium, visiting breweries and monasteries and stuff there, and just learning about all there is to know. And then he moved back after college to Portland and opened Novari Res. Most people are familiar with Novari Res Beer Bar. When he opened that, it was one of the first in New England of a true beer bar. And he really kind of embraced the European concept of, no TVs, people go to a bar to hang out and socialize and enjoy the products and people's company. So with the success of Novari, he eventually decided he wanted to have his own brewery. And that's where Liquid Riot came about. I helped him build Novari, and so he tapped me again to come and work with him on Liquid Riot. The idea of everything that's going on at Liquid Riot, it's kind of a monster of a company. We have the brewery, we have the distillery, and we have a full kitchen and bar. So we're the only ones in the Northeast that do all of that together under one roof. So it's pretty unique. And the idea of doing all that was to provide a space for people to come and enjoy all aspects of beer and spirits. We have food that we can offer, pair with things. We use the food and the spirits in the kitchen. We do a lot of our own things. Our bar program is pretty much in-house. We do a lot of our own syrups and sodas, and so it's just a way for us to make things that we like and be creative and be able to share everything with all the people that are interested.
It's funny. I've been to both locations. I've been to Liquid Riot. I've been to Novari Res. Until tonight, I didn't know they were affiliated at all. But yeah. I love both places. So you guys are doing a great job.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Not everybody is able to have the opportunity to work with family, and I obviously work with Nick on this podcast. Nick's my brother, so we work together on this. What has it been like for you to be able to work with a family member so closely and kind of build something from the ground up from day one?
It's been cool. I'm lucky that we have a big family and a pretty tight-knit family, so there's not a lot of, we all get along. I guess maybe that wasn't always the case in our younger. Eric and I are about 2 years apart. So through school, we had our challenges, not seeing eye to eye, but now that we're both mostly adults, we do get along pretty well. We work well together in this company. Eric's the businessman. He has the big ideas and makes the plans and stuff. And I'm very technical. So, I build things, I operate equipment, and so that works. He can do what needs to be done to do the nitty gritty business, keep everything afloat. And then I run in there every day and take care of things. I do all the maintenance and stuff in addition to working in the distillery. So yeah, it's good for us. I know a lot of people don't like working with their families, so I guess in my case, I'm lucky.
Now, to get into the tap room and the beer cafe there, so I get the European style of that Novari Res. With Liquid Riot, it's this really cool industrial styling inside. You have some arcade games. You can have the open. You can see the distillery and everything in there. Huge bar, nice tables. Your food's delicious. Beer, spirits. So what really brought you to come up with that design? Like, oh, this is totally, where we have to go with this.
So the idea with the facility was we didn't want to hide anything. We wanted to be open. We really embrace like traditional practices and the craft of the things that we do. So yeah, the distillery and the brewery are all behind plate glass. We really would have wanted everything just open so that people could actually come up and see things. But with all the different licenses in there, we weren't able to do that. We had to provide actual separation. So the plate glass is there, but you can still see everything. You can see the happenings while people are working. The kitchen's open, so you can see into the kitchen and see the food being prepared. We wanted to be on the waterfront because it's so important to Portland and life in Maine. And so we got lucky with the spot that we have a great view of the water. We watch the lobster boats come in and out all day long. And it's great to be able to have that space and that connection to Portland. And, it really is, the waterfront is what made Portland the city that it is.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun to go down there and go to Commercial Street and the Old Port and everything. It's a great space, and you have an awesome location right there, right on the water. The food, I want to talk to you a little bit about the food, because last time I was there, I had, I believe it was like a coconut fried chicken sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely delicious. Had a burger, the fries, had some beer with it, and the food was delicious. So clearly, your liquor's awesome, your beer was great, and the food too. So who's behind the food?
So our chef right now is Josh Doria. The kitchen side of things has been a real adventure. This is the first full restaurant that either Eric and I have ever been involved with. So it's been sort of a revolving door up until Josh. And when we first opened, we had a chef that was more high-end upscale, so it was kind of nicer food, fine dining style, and that didn't necessarily resonate with what we were really trying to do, and the clientele was not exactly what we wanted. So we've been back and forth, but Josh, we really like what Josh is doing. He's using a lot of local ingredients. He's working with local farmers, sourcing chicken and beef from local farms, and he's doing pub food for the most part, but with his own twist. He lived in Miami for a little while, so had some access to other cultural food styles, and so he has a bit of an Asian influence with the sauces, and so yeah, the chicken sandwich, I love that. His burgers are excellent. And we just, we do, it's a fairly simple, short menu, especially now this summer. But everything's really flavorful. And again, we try to use at least one of our beer or spirit products in every dish, whether it be a sauce or, I don't know, he tries to incorporate it somehow.
Yep. And looking at the menu, you can really tell that it really is well thought out, and none of the ingredients are just kind of thrown together. Oh, this might be okay. It really is a well put together menu, and all the food items really come together nicely.
I also want to point out, Josh is good about providing options for like vegan and non-meat eating people too. So a lot of people don't realize that we do have offerings that should cover pretty much everybody's palate or taste.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Not a lot of places do, so it's good to be able to have something for everyone. We also saw that you participate in a lot of like local events and challenges, or you have historically. I know you can't really right now, but you're pretty involved with the community. So are there any like standout events that you do every year that you've really loved participating in, or causes that you support in the Maine community?
I don't know that. So we're actively working now to try to do more like fundraising for charity and charitable events and stuff. Most of the stuff that we participate in is, tasting events and festivals and stuff. Like you said, this year there's nothing. Everything's been canceled. But it is fun to get out, and Eric and I are Mainers. We grew up here in Maine. We obviously left for a while for schooling and stuff. But I personally really enjoy going out to the communities that have the festivals and being able to interact with people and talk to people, and allowing people to sample your products at those types of events is really key, I think, to getting people to buy our products, especially with the spirits. Spirits tend to be, higher priced item. It's not necessarily something that people will want to spend money on without knowing whether they like it or not. So it's really great to be able to go out and be able to sample and get people's feedbacks from the spirits. And I do, that's one of the big, probably toughest parts of this summer. You know, we're open, but we're not able to do a lot of that stuff now.
Now, I just moved up here to Maine about a year ago. It was last summer. Tell me about some of these festivals. What are some of your favorites up here that on a normal year, obviously this year you haven't been able to do them, but ones that you frequent every year?
I've been going to the Skowhegan Brewfest for the past, this would have been the third year. And that's a cool one because it's put on by the Chamber of Commerce in town there as an event for the town to try to get people out and about. And, you know, they're really actively working to fix up the downtown there. Skowhegan was an old mill town that kind of, as most of the mill towns in Maine, you know, went down pretty hard when the mills closed, and you know, there's not a lot in those cities now or towns to draw people there. So Skowhegan has Maine Grains is located right in downtown, and they are a local grain provider. They do milling, and we actually buy some of our ingredients from them. So they're right there in town, and they do tours and stuff, and it's cool to be able to go up there and see those guys, and they help out with the festival. But that's a fun one. Got canceled this year, unfortunately. We also do the Great Falls Brewfest in Lewiston every year. That one was started by Baxter Brewing, I believe. And again, you know, Lewiston, Auburn area is another area in Maine that has had hard times. It used to be a really nice booming city with all the mills and stuff, and that's gone to the wayside. So it's another way for the brewing industry, which is so successful here in Maine, to help their communities and try to draw people in. So those are two pretty fun ones. On the spirits side, typically so I'm a founding member of the Maine Distillers Guild, and I was the president for the first 3 years of operation with that. And so we started doing some smaller events, tasting events, focus on spirits, and typically we do one every year called Make Mine from Maine, which is focusing just on Maine spirits. It's pretty amazing how many different styles of spirit are available that are made here in Maine. I think there's 16 distilleries now, and there's you could get everything. You know, we make Fernet, which is kind of a unique one. There's a handful of gins, there's vodkas, you know, pretty much everything you could want. There's even an absinthe. So those are fun ones too with the Distillers Guild. Actually, there is going to be one event in September. The Sebago Lakes Chamber of Commerce. Last year was the first year. They're going to do it this year. It's called I can't remember what it's called. I'll look it up and refresh my memory. But they do it. It's a spirits festival at Point Sebago on Sebago Lake. And so we're going to do it this year. It's going to be different. They're only selling 50 tickets. There's 2 sessions, and they're only going to have 50 people at each session. So it's going to be small. It'll be interesting. But it will be a good way to see some faces and share our products.
And the people that do go will probably get to have a little bit more one-on-one time than in a typical year. So that'll at least benefit them a bit, and it'll let you connect with some of your customers.
For sure.
So you do have quite the variety of spirits. Do you have any particular ones that I guess you like the best, that you have more of an affinity for?
So it's interesting. I never was really into fermentation until Eric tapped me to work with this. So everything that I know about beer making and spirit making, I've learned in the last 7 years with Liquid Riot. You know, I've had plenty of beverages to drink in my lifetime, but never really was as passionate about it as Eric was. So it's been fun to learn about things and sort of develop my own feelings. But yeah, so we make 9 different products in the distillery. Everything from vodka up through whiskey, 4 different whiskeys, a couple of rums. I like the whiskeys probably the best. I think our whiskeys are good. They're coming along nicely. We're hitting almost 5 years of age on some of them, and they're really maturing nicely. But the ones that I think are kind of the most unique are the beer-based products that we make. So we have 2 products. One's called Beer Schnapps, and the other is Bonfire Spirit. Both of those products are made from finished beer and then distilled. And the Bonfire Spirit is a collaboration with Sebago Brewing. So it's their fall rye beer, Bonfire Rye. And so we take that beer, which has a very high rye content, but it's also quite hoppy. And I treat that like a whiskey. So I distill it like I do our whiskeys and barrel age it like our whiskeys. Currently, it's about 2.5 years old when we bottle it. And the cool thing with that product is it drinks like a light rye whiskey up front, but the hops come through the distillation and lend some interesting sort of citrus, almost herbal notes to the finish. So it's really kind of cool. And then the same thing with the beer schnapps. The beer schnapps, Eric, when he was traveling in Europe, he noticed that a lot of like the really old sort of rural breweries traditionally had a small still, even if they didn't currently use it due to law changes and stuff, but historically they would use it instead of tossing any bad product, any beer that was past date or just wasn't quite right, they would distill it and make a schnapps. Not American schnapps, not sweet, syrupy flavored stuff, just more of like a grappa, like a, just a high proof spirit. And so he kind of liked that idea. So our beer schnapps is made from all the waste beer from our brewery. We don't throw anything away when stuff's out of date, or we save the bottoms of the tanks, the stuff that's too cloudy or has yeast sediment and stuff in it. And I distill that to make our beer schnapps. And it's cool. It's because it's grain based, it does have some whiskey qualities, but again, all the hop notes come through and just lend some interesting citrusy brightness to it. So it's a fun one. It's unique.
That is interesting. And while we're here talking about the hops, why don't you take us through your beer selection?
So our brewery, our whole company is it's not your typical brewery. We never were set up for wholesaling. We're more of a brew pub. We want people to come to us. So the majority of our products we sell ourselves over our bar. And so we only package a handful of our beers in cans, and most of those are ones that that do well, IPAs and stuff. So if people who are familiar with our products and find us in stores, you'll see Head Stash, which is one of our it's kind of our flagship IPA, and we have a handful of other IPAs. But what we are really interested in and what we like and what kind of makes us different is we don't really brew things repeatedly. We've brewed over 400 different styles of beer so far since opening. If you come into our facility, we have 16 taps, and every single one of those has a house beer on it. And so we make all styles. We make everything from dark stouts, barrel-aged beers, all the way through to light lagers, pilsners. We also have a cool ship, which is an open fermentation vessel that we use in the colder months, fall, spring. It's a Belgian style of beer to make sour beers. The wort goes out into the cool ship outside and sits overnight and cools naturally, air cools, and picks up wild yeast and bacteria from the air, and then that then gets barrel aged for several years. So again, we like to experiment. We like to just touch on every aspect of things and learn, and we try to be traditional with most of the things that we do, and then add our own unique twists here and there.
And you definitely make a lot of great unique products too, so it's working for you. So keep at it. Why don't we get into the tasting of a couple of these that we have here? So we have the Fernet and the Old Port Bourbon. I've cheated. I've been sipping them the whole time.
Awesome.
We'll start with the Old Port Bourbon here. I'm a big whiskey guy. That's my go-to when it comes to any sort of spirit. Rye tends to be my top one, but I like good bourbon and scotch as well. So the bourbon here, one thing that I notice is, unlike some other ones that I have, it's not super high proof. It doesn't really have that strong burn that you might get from some that are really high cask strength. It's super smooth, but you still get all the great flavors that you want out of it. Bianca, have you gotten a chance to sip on this one yet?
I just did. Didn't you see me? No, just kidding. No, it's really good. Unlike Nick, I don't drink a lot of whiskey at all. But it's very good. I think it's definitely not, it's nice for like smooth so I can drink it as someone who doesn't drink a lot of whiskey. I can't drink a lot of things that are very high in alcohol. So I like that this is, it's around like 45%. So it's a pretty smooth liquor. It tastes great. It has really nice flavor notes. And I love the bottle. I love like the whole design of it.
Yeah, so our bourbon, all the whiskeys actually. So in the distillery, I try to use as much Maine grown grains as possible. So the bourbon has Maine grown rye, malt, and we use buckwheat, which is sort of a unique thing. And then our corn, I've gone back and forth trying to source corn in Maine, haven't found a good, reliable source. So most of the corn that I use comes out of upstate New York. It is organic, and I source it through a Maine provider. So I am actually working with a farmer here in Maine to try to start growing us some corn. Was hoping for this summer, but everything fell apart this summer. So maybe next summer. And yeah, so our bourbon it's a 4-grain bourbon. And something that we don't really market ourselves for is all of our whiskeys are single batch, single barrel per bottling. The scale of our production I fill 30-gallon barrels, and that basically the way it all works out is a single batch from start to finish will fill just over a single 30-gallon barrel. So I keep that straight through to bottling, which is cool. A lot of places, a lot of distilleries will actually tout that as a special thing. It's just the process that we've used and seems to be working. And I haven't noticed too much inconsistency in quality and flavors. So we've gotten a lot of good feedback for our bourbon. We've won some awards with tasting events. Most notable would be 2018. We got a gold medal in San Francisco at the World Spirits competition that they do out there. I'm bottling it just over 3 years now. It's about 3.5 years. We're shooting for 4 eventually, but it sells well for us. So I haven't been able to let anything sit for too long. And yeah, 90 proof. So it is, in the bourbon world, 90 proof is sort of middle of the road. There are some lower proof, there's some higher proof. We like the 90 proof because it is hot enough, alcoholic enough that you can use it in cocktails or ice it if that's how you prefer to use it. And it doesn't water it down too much. But it isn't so strong and alcoholic that you can't sip it just as is.
Some of the bourbons I've been sipping on recently have been like 110. So yeah. They're definitely, this is a very welcome change for me when it comes to it.
And then, yeah, so, and the flavor profiles, I find that it's very smooth. and again, at 90 proof, you don't get any real burn from the alcohol. I get, the interesting thing for me is on the finish, you get some sort of nutty sweetness, and that comes from the buckwheat. Buckwheat's not a common, that's actually technically not a grain at all. It's, I don't remember what it is, but it's something that, and we use it sort of as a nod to our French Canadian family. The French Canadian settlers here in Maine actually brought buckwheat with them over from Europe, and still grow it up in northern Maine. And they use it to make buckwheat pancakes a lot for Sunday dinners and stuff. So we decided to try using it in the whiskey, and it works well.
And now the Fernet. So this is one I was excited to try too, because I'd never tried one of these before. To be honest, I never heard them before until you guys lent us one here. But this has a really, really unique, awesome flavor. The first thing I noticed when I was sipping on it was just a ton of mint.
Yeah.
A really smooth mint, and just a really nice, almost like an herbal green tea type of finish on it. It's really tasty.
So yeah, Fernet is in the Amaro family, which is a class of liqueurs that tend to be bitter. Aperol's one. There's a whole handful of them that people are maybe more familiar with. Fernet is it's originated in Italy, and is traditionally used as a digestif after dinner. Hence the very medicinal sort of quality to it. The sort of world leader of Fernet is Fernet Branca, and so it's a product that's well known by like bar people and cocktail people, but it's not real well known to just the general public. So we wanted to do our version of it for the bar and to try to introduce more people to the product. So we used Branca as sort of our benchmark, since it is so well known. Branca is very, very medicinal, much more so than ours. It's almost abrasive. I don't prefer it, but a lot of people do. And so our concept with the Fernet Michaud was to take that down a little bit and make it more approachable to the people who don't know or just learning about it. So we are very mint forward. We use 3 different mints, lots of it. We have 21 herbs altogether in the product, and it's barrel aged for about a year to let everything work and mix together. And then we back sweeten a little bit before bottling with agave syrup. And so you get a little bit of that sweetness on the finish. And I think between that, the high mint content and a little bit of sweetness, it is much more approachable. I like to sip on it, and again, people use it in cocktails, any cocktail, like whiskey drinks and stuff that you would typically use a more traditional bitters for. You can substitute a little dash of the Fernet, works there. There are more Fernet focused cocktails. I'm not a big cocktail person. I tend to drink my spirits neat, but I do, one thing I do like to do with the Fernet is add it to coffee. Like an Irish coffee kind of idea, but the Fernet is kind of cool. The herbalness comes out.
Yeah, we always add sambuca to our coffee in the Italian ways. I guess we just always have at least in my fiance's family. But this is so interesting. I just tried it obviously right now, but it has such a unique flavor, such a unique smell, and I really like it. I love mint though, so I think that for me, I just like anything like overpowering mint, something like I love it. But I also love gin, and it kind of, I think I like that a little bit more for my palate than I do like a bourbon or a whiskey. So that's really good. That's something that I would definitely drink.
That's cool. Yeah, no, I find it's really complex, and when you sip on it, you really have to take a bunch of sips, and every sip is different. Something different will come to your palate, and it's just cool. It's very interesting.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna wrap this in just a little bit here. The drinks were awesome. We had a great time talking to you. Is there anything we didn't get to that you wanted to talk to about before we go?
No, I just, if you're in the Portland area, come on in and check us out. We do flights, beer flights, spirit flights, so you can try stuff, you can sample stuff. We have a retail shop, so you can take product home with you. All of our beers we can put into crowler cans, so 32 ounce, big boy cans. We do that instead of the traditional growler. And we have, if you're a whiskey drinker, we have 4 whiskeys. We have a rye, and we do an oat whiskey, which is made from rolled oats, and both of those are going to be 5 years old by the end of this year. So I think we're the only ones in Maine producing a 5-year-old whiskey right now. So
I got to try that oat whiskey. That's one that I haven't tried yet, so I'm excited for that one too.
cool.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting.
And we have a great cocktail program. So if you like cocktails, come on in.
Yeah, that sounds great. I love a good cocktail. Where can all of our listeners find you online and on social media?
So we have we're pretty good with our Facebook and Instagram accounts. Liquid Riot Bottling Company in both places. Just search. We're the only one. This is a pretty unique name, so it comes up pretty easily. Our website's also pretty well up to date. All of our products are listed there, and most of our links to social media are on there as well, blog posts and such. And if you want to buy our products, obviously come to us. We love to see you. But in Maine, any bottle shop will carry most of our products. We have distribution in Massachusetts as well. Through Ruby Wines. They were focused more on the sort of on-premise restaurant industry stuff. So this summer, I think they're pushing product into more stores, but if people are in Massachusetts and looking for us, you can ask your vendor about Ruby Wines and see if they can get it.
I will.
Awesome. Well, we had a great time talking to you tonight. Thank you again for taking the time. Cheers.
My pleasure.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Be sure to follow us on social at Uncorked Corner and on the blog at uncorkedcorner.com for a taste of more food and beverage content.
And if you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave a comment, subscribe, rate, and review on whatever podcast platform you prefer. Thanks for listening.